Hi, I'm Samir Jain, and I'd like to recommend a great movie that I watched for the second time. It's a great documentary, The Fog of War, 11 Lessons from the Life of Robert McNamara. And I think it's especially relevant in the context of denuclearization discussions that are happening between the United States and North Korea. And as President Trump prepares to talk nukes with Kim Jong-un, he risks repeating past US failures and even alienating allies. So this movie has some great lessons. My impression is that The Fog of War is more also about creating a better world, engaging the hearts, the mind, the gut of decision makers whose decisions affect the life and death of nations. So the US government during Kennedy's and LBJ's administration faced many of the choices that current government faces, albeit in another context. So the first lesson from McNamara's talk was he asks us to develop a heightened awareness of the dangers posed by modern weapons, and also asks us to think about how we can contribute to reduce them for the sake of our children. He encouraged people to read the Kennedy tapes. So I was struck by how dangerous concentration in power and authority can be when he spoke about one human being has the potential to launch weapons and destroy the world. Such concentrated authority coupled with the human fallibility came so close to destroying our world. So I think that leadership should recognize their own fallibilities and put a system of checks and balances. In his examples, a hotline, test bans, permissive locks, etc. So these are technical solutions and they're important to make the world a safer place. Now, leadership must also distinguish between moral deeds and immoral deeds. So he was against the bombings against Japan and commented that those same actions will be construed as immoral if the US had lost the war. So while one can argue that to the victors go the spoils of war, I too am in favor of developing widely endorsed and accepted international standards in war and the development of a judicial deterrent. Another interesting thing for me was, since authority figures are only human, it is important that we have a system to keep them in check from themselves. And this was further highlighted where a resolution gave LBJ complete authority from Congress to go to war in Vietnam. So when an authority figure has unchecked authority, even if he is wrong, he is able to get away by carrying his sense of righteousness in his mind. And I think Bob was right when he said, we often see incorrectly, and furthermore, we see what we want to believe. So in war, belief and seeing are often wrong, and therefore mistakes happen. It makes sense for a leader to take time to be sure her decisions are correct, and often when they are not correct, to have the good sense and the humility to recognize that she may be wrong. The importance of empathy too cannot be emphasized, I beg your pardon. Bob says that they were able to put themselves in the skin of Soviets during the missile crisis, which helped save the world. They did not do so in Vietnam, where the Vietnamese saw it as a civil war, and those of us in the US saw it as Cold War. Both sides did not empathize, and this led to a complete breakdown. So leadership should have been about being more sensitive to the culture, the history, the aspirations of the Vietnamese people. And deploying empathy can help a leader diffuse tense situations. And of course, it is important for a leader to surround himself with people capable of empathy, as in this movie, Ambassador Thompson was. I wonder if we as a nation are less empathic now than we were, say, 20 years ago. Repeatedly, we see unilateralism, and indeed, it is a tool of foreign policy now, And it makes sense when one nation has a global hegemony in a multi-unipolar world. So in most leadership situations, outside politics and outside our context these days, this is not the case, for every authority figure has to work with a team of people. So the lesson for a leader is not to apply power unilaterally, but to persuade those and others with comparable values about the merits of your case.